So this area we're going to be talking about is depossession, or some people call it spirit release. And I'm going to explain this today, as I'm explaining all of these videos, from a shamanic perspective. However, within the training, we are forever working to refine the language that we use and our definitions, because some of these concepts would not be open to everyone. So it's looking to reword things so that these methods and ways of working and healing practices we may set up off the back of this training course is open to everyone. So with that said, depossession is quite a heavy word, and spirit release also is quite a heavy word. And I did come up with a few names, but I can't quite remember at the moment, which was channeled on another course I did. But we can go through that together on the course. So we're talking about the last area bridging into this area, fragmentation. Okay, so therapists call this disassociation, shamans call this soul loss, and this was made aware to me on my second ayahuasca ceremony, and I only really became aware of it when I came here and read my journal just before I came, my first ever journal. I've forever been keeping journals on this journey. And so the fragmentation, what I was shown, then I didn't have a clue. It took, like I said, took years to understand. But a part of my consciousness fragments. So I'm going to explain this with an example of the first one I was made aware of. And so what happened, and fragmentation happens from deep trauma, because the trauma is too much for the body to take, that the part fragments. So I was 7 years old, and it was quite tough growing up. My father was quite abusive physically and mentally, just physical beatings and stuff like that. But what was most challenging for me was the emotional abuse, like bullying me and my brothers, and kind of training us to be masters of messing with each other's emotions and like raising our esteem at the expense of belittling my brothers. And I can see clearly all this today, but I can go deeper on this when I share my personal story. So the 7-year-old boy fragmented from my consciousness. Now, from all my studies, obviously I didn't know that then, but with years of study, I can see clearly today now that the 7-year-old boy has fragmented from my psyche. And the reason it fragmented was because I felt terror at the hands of my dad. And so it fragmented and it became a standalone being. Now, talking of free will, consciously I have free will. Not consciously. I have free will, and collectively I have free will. Now, when a part of me is fragmented, it's part of me. It also has free will. So if I'm working towards an intention and that part's in conflict, it can create resistance to me receiving whatever it is I want in any given moment. And one way to overcome this is to heal the part and reintegrate it. The other way is like the law of attraction, which is fueled from our thought forms, is creating spells. And the spells are fueled from our thought forms, or we can use other permission slips in making spells. We naturally make spells. Spelling, talking, language is spells. So if our spells are really strong and our beliefs are really strong, we can overcome this conflict of interest. But collectively, I perceive I certainly have free will. But at times, and the depth of any given shadow can determine if it's really going to flow what it is I desire in any given moment. So, so when it's fragmented, that part has free will. Now, also, its emotions are stunted in growth. So it's still a 7-year-old boy. and it's not in alignment with my conscious awareness where I'm at. It's still a boy, and it needs communicating with compassion and love and empowerment and support, and remembering that it's a child and it needs to be treated in that way. So when the fragmentation happens and it creates an empty space within the psyche. Now, these parts that fragment, they go to many different places. I went to one place once on a mushroom ceremony and met this being. It was like this beautiful female horse-like being, and there was this orphanage of my child parts where she was like the spirit guide and looking after them. There's one place they can go. Another time, one of them attached to my girlfriend because it was looking for a mothering energy, and so it wanted to stay with her because it felt safe with her energy. But they can go to many different places. Like, one thing on this path is there are no rules, and like with shamanism, that's pretty much the only rule. There are no rules. Anything else is open. So what happens typically is those parts want to find a protector. Now, this protector is a spirit, and some people label these as negative entities. I mean, I don't see anything as an entity separate from me. Everything is one, and they're certainly not negative. They can be perceived in that way, but once learning the teachings from them and transforming them and releasing them, they come in a student-teacher role, and I see the transformation and change in my life. How can they not be positive? And I perceive them as teachers, and they have been my greatest teachers, having released thousands of these types of energies from myself, never mind assisting other people. So the part befriends spirit, and there's many different categories of what these spirits are, which I will touch on shortly. And they become friends, and they sign a contract, and the contract is that the protector spirit will do everything in its power to ensure that that part of me never has to feel that pain, that emotion, that memory ever again. So it's like a diversion energy, and this is pretty much what I perceive is the core of addiction. Addiction, for me, is just diversion from going inwards and acknowledging any shadow that has been awoken. And people use addiction in many different ways, such as drugs, such as TV, box sets, food, shopping, consumerism, and all of humanity have addiction. Everybody does, and this journey is about bringing it into alignment, and so that we're the boss of the show, not the unhealed energies and shadows. So that empty space within the psyche thus then gets filled with the spirit. Now, what's really interesting is the spirit that shows up to be the protector is an unhealed energy. It's unhealed. So it's in resonance to the wound within me. So the spirit that comes along is in resonance with the vibration of terror. That's its life force energy, its fuel. So it joins the empty psyche within me, buries itself within, feeds on the wound, the fuel that's in resonance with it, and remains hidden until it's triggered and woken up, or woken up through intention setting and bringing stuff to the surface, so we can become more in alignment of what it is that we desire in our lives, becoming more and more our true authentic selves. These spirits can be quite tricky, cunning and baffling, but I mean, overcoming my addiction, I've really mastered this path of depossession, spirit release. I can do it every single time now, and I do it every single day. And though right now I'm not doing it because I'm working with curse vibrations, which is an area um, I'm getting close to mastering. But many cool methods of approach to work with that area. so, so like I said, these spirits are teachers and students. Because they're unhealed, they've come to me to learn from my experience of how to raise their awareness and transform that unhealed vibration of terror, in this example, within them. And also, they're teaching me one, they're teaching me because there's distraction energies, they're teaching me how to gain practices to overcome the diversions and distractions. And also, they're teaching me about their vibration. Um, I'm going to touch on how they fuel in another video, which is coming after this one. But what I've recognized is when I look into their eyes, I recognize their eyes in my current life. So by understanding this connection with the spirit, it helps me understand my connection and relationship with the same person in my current life. And like probably 90% of the time, these spirits are also incarnate in my current life. And what I found is from our past lives, we have karma together. And this karma is in resonance with the vibration of terror in this example. So by going inwards and figuring out my current life terror and healing it, healing the unhealed spirit protector and releasing it home, thus that can also clear the karma that I had with that given soul in another life. And thus my relationship with that person in my current life also improves. And those challenges we may have had with that particular vibration seem to dissolve. Now, this, for me, on my path and the way I've chosen to work, this is not the case with every relationship, because I have karma with different people and the same stuff can come up again and again. And it's going through many layers from person to person in the way that I've chosen to work currently. This is a very interesting way of working. And it's really about taking responsibility, because I recognize within different lives, one life I'm the perpetrator, one life I'm the victim, and the souls switch roles so we can learn both sides of the coin. And it's not to come from a place of judgment, oh, they're doing this to me, they're doing that to me. It's to take responsibility for it. Where is my part in this? And then with the modalities I teach, to journey into it and really gain a higher awareness of what the teaching is, so that we can thus find forgiveness for people, and that's when the healing process can then begin. And then when that part is healed, we can grow it up so that its conscious awareness is in alignment with where we are. The part thus then becomes fully healed and ready to reintegrate. And then we can reintegrate that part. At this moment, it thus becomes soul retrieval. And there's many, many different methods of approach that I teach in how to go about this, which will be taught on the course. But I can share one method in this example, just a simple one, is that what I did, the boy could not forgive my father because it couldn't understand. So we traveled into my father's life when he was a boy, and his parents were beating him and abusing him, and he went exactly through what I went through. And the boy started to build compassion for my father and could see that he didn't know, he was just doing to me what had been done to him. And with that and a few other methods, I was able to raise this awareness so we could see more clearly and find forgiveness for my father. There's many different methods such as this, and going into soul contracts, agreements we made before we came here, so that we can raise awareness and understand why we're going through any given teaching and step out of victimhood and into responsibility. So I'm going to break down the areas of these spirit protectors, of what they are. Now, when I first came to the jungle, I was really being distracted and messed with in ceremony by these energies. And prior to coming to the jungle, I was on this path working with medicine about a year or so, and I wouldn't have visions at times, and there was just something not right in how the medicine was working with me. And when I started my diet, it woke up all this stuff, and I was seeing it in ceremony. And I would have like angels like coming to me in ceremony, and then these beings jumping on top of them, going like bundle, like jumping on top and holding them down, or like putting them in catapults, the angels, and flinging them away from me. And then I'd keep seeing them in the corner of my eye, just jumping, going where, where. And so I asked my maestro what this was, and he just laughed and said, "They're your addiction demons. This is what you come here for. This is what the plants are going to teach you." And that they did. So the concept of demon. So I do not believe they are demons in any way. I do not believe demons exist. And I have some shamanic teachers who have been doing this work for a very long time, and they've never come across a demon. And I've never come across a demon. And I feel the concept of demon has come from like the religions that were put here and created here by a higher force to control humanity through fear. And this demon concept was to control us through fear, to meet their desire and needs of control. And so I feel that Hollywood jumped all over this, and they sell it in all their movies. And I feel collectively humanity have started to believe the stories we're sold through Hollywood. And then collectively humanity are projecting that onto these unhealed spirit protectors. And they start to believe it. They're very confused. They don't really know what's going on a lot of the time. But at the same time, they're quite cunning and skilled in their diversionary skills. So I've met many of these beings, and they've told me I'm the devil, I'm Lucifer, I'm this, I'm that, and try and scare me. But when I connect them to their inner light and connect them to their true self, their memories start to come back. And they're like, oh my God, no, that's not who I am. I'm John from Dallas, and I used to work on a farm. Like, and every time I've done this, not once have I found a demon, although they may believe in the beginning the projection, collective projections of humanity. So now it's time to break these down into areas. So area number one would be discarnate human beings. So a human could die with religious conditioning such as heaven and hell. They may have been a little bit naughty in their life, and the light comes to take them, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to hell. No, 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 no. And they remain earthbound and trapped. So, and then they're looking for the fuel of that fear in other people. Now, I mean, they never come in by mistake. It's contracted. It's an agreement. They're teachers, and they come through with our soul agreement. It's our responsibility to work through these karmas and teachings. It doesn't happen by mistake, is my experience. And so another example can be they die with a deep trauma, and dying with that trauma, they kind of have unfinished business. It's quite productive. They're going to learn many more lessons before they can transform and return to the soul. So this is humans, and extraterrestrials is another one. And it's the same story with extraterrestrials, and we have karma with those lives as well. And as well as the humans, they're attracted to us through karma. They know our souls. They come in randomly, and again, the ETs could have died with traumas or beliefs and such, that unfinished business for them to work through before they transcend. And there's another area which I've kind of transformed the name now, which I changed it to collective conflicted energies, or something like that. I can't quite remember. It's in my journal. But these originally were called dark force energies, and The reason they were given that name is because they contain more darkness than light. Now, these are my favorite because they're very tricky, cunning, and challenging. They've got some serious skill. They've been around for a very long time, so they've had a lot of time to refine their skills. And I know there's no time in the spirit world, but here in the middle world, we have this illusion of time. And these spirits are of the middle world. They're of the same world as us, these unhealed spirit energies. So these energies can be more, they're most typically extraterrestrial origin. Um, and they can be like extraterrestrial, like animal-like beings, or rarely are they human. But someone like Hitler, for example, could maybe classed as a dark force energy. And I've done some channeling with Hitler. He's absolutely fascinating and a great teacher for humanity. And I will share these revelations in another video, which are like absolute fascinating, what came through in this talk with him. I planned to do a talk with him, and I didn't plan to do a talk with him. I was going to do a talk with Jesus, and I was discussing with a friend who we should speak to, and Hitler just turned up. He wanted to communicate with us, so, and such an opposite to Jesus. It was a really interesting teaching. So, so the next area we have is nature beings. And nature beings, we need to be very careful in releasing them from ourselves and other people, because they're typically empowerment guides, and they help balance out the dark force energies. Now, without their support, the dark force energies could really take over, and I feel a lot of suicide is around this, and psychosis and stuff like this, because we're not able to hold the power and depths of their energy, that nature beings may join us to help balance this out. So it's very important to communicate with the nature beings if they're ready to leave, or if they're here balancing energies. And obviously I learned the hard way, and as I did with many of my practices, and it was quite overwhelming dealing with the dark force energies, but by learning the hard way, it has taught me to be a great teacher, to empower you to learn in the most smoothest way for yourselves. So nature beings can also kind of be sucked into our psyche when we're in nature and we're crying and we're low. And again, I feel they're coming just to help and support, but maybe not necessarily needed so much, as if there's not a dark force energy there. And they're really cool beings, nature beings to work with, of the elements, elementals, working with the beings of the earth, the fire, the wind, and the water. Really cool. Now, the last area to cover is thought form beings. Now, when I was in the jungle the first time, I was wondering, are these just thought forms? Like, are these demons? Like, what the hell are they? And I went on a journey of discovering what all this meant to me in alignment with my beliefs. And so a thought form being is a fragmentation of a thought, similar like a thought form relationship being we may create. But delving into this deeper to understand this more clearly, what I found is the other spirit energies, and it's most likely going to be a dark force energy. What they'll do is they'll project onto someone and create a disharmony within my life. Or they will revisit a memory within me in resonance to their vibration and bring it to my attention. And then they will just keep pounding me with thought forms, like a washing machine effect. And I just can't get these thoughts out my head. And it can become so overwhelming that it thus fragments and creates a standalone being. And that standalone being then joins the war clan of the dark force energy in overcoming me and my practices, in meeting it, healing it, and releasing it. So that's what the thought form beings are about. Now, I have many different practices, but the practice that's been serving me for the last few years, which was really refined by my plant Dieta Noya Rao, is working in groups of 7. So I work with 7 spirit attachments at a time, and I work with one per day, just a daily maintenance program. And this maintenance program and inner program has been really important for me overcoming my addictions. So there'll be 7 spirit attachments. So I'll be working with the same trauma, the same vibration. So if we were to use an example of abandonment, for example, I will have 6 spirit attachments, one a day, of all of these categories, and it can be current life, future life, past life, and I'll work through one a day, learning from these teachers and them learning from me, doing the reintegration of the fragmentation and clearing, healing, and clearing the spirit. Now, number 7 is a very special category. Number 7 I call the boss, and it's the boss of the 6 ones below it, and it can control them to do its bidding. So it's a great teacher and a great student, and it's very productive on its part as a student also, which I'll touch on. So while I'm working through the other 6, the boss is doing everything in its power to trip me up so that I can't clear the other 6, or sometimes it will just sacrifice its minions so that they get in the way when I'm getting close to a revelation or a healing. And it will also connect into their vibrations and try and create thought form beings so that there's more beings in front of it before I can meet it clearly. So why I say it's very productive for this spirit, because it's going to learn the teaching from 7 different perspectives. It's going to learn through the 6 fragmentations and spirit protectors, and then it's going to learn from its own story. So it gets to learn a lot of teachings in a student role. And as a teacher, they're very tricky, cunning, baffling, clever. It's aided me over the last few years of really refining my practice, methods, and rituals. And that's why I say that I've mastered this now. Having done so many, I know all the tricks they play and have created all the methods and modalities to overcome any games or trickery they may play in this area of depossession spirit leads. Now, what's very special for me is once the boss is healed, I send it away and I have its true self come, its soul come, and it joins me as a spirit guide and joins my team. This can be done with all of them, but I just do it with the bosses because the bosses seem to be very clever. And I turn the tables on them. I mean, all of the trickery they put down on me has taught me to overcome that. But now I have them healed on my team, and I can go to them and learn new methods and new areas of approach. And they all have certain different skills and certain different qualities that can aid me on my path of co-creating new methods and rituals in my healing practices. So within this area, and this area is very close to my heart, it's been incredible, and it's been really tough and challenging. But today I'm really receiving the fruits of my labor, and just a daily practice that I've co-created with the guides is, like I say, giving me a life of 99.9% joy. Now that other 0.1% is when something wakes up within me, but it's my choice today how long I sit in that, because I have the ability today to clear that very rapidly. And like talking about unconditional love, I can have unconditional love most of the time. However, when I'm in those moments of something being woken up, that part doesn't have my conscious awareness. So that needs to come into alignment for me to gain my unconditional love. And I believe true unconditional love would be reaching a place of enlightenment or creating spells to remain in that vibration, or living in a cave on your own for the rest of your life, which is not really exciting to me. Although living in the jungle in a tambo the rest of my life, I would be quite happy to do that. But I want to share these teachings in the world, and just be of service. If I can make a difference in anyone's life through empowering them with some modalities, then um, that's what I want to do. So thank you for listening to this video, and we will now move into